Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel Breaking News TV. We are here again with another breaking news.
World War III, the £250 million plan for UK nuclear sub east of Suez to engage China immediately. The Ministry of Defence proposed plans to a secret Chiefs of Staff committee in 1968 to deploy several nuclear submarines east of the Suez Canal capable of covering the whole of the Soviet Union and vast areas of China at immediate notice, Express.co.uk can reveal. During the 60s, the world arguably came the closest to all-out nuclear war in its history as the US and Soviet Union tussled over ultimate supremacy both on the ground and in space. These tensions reached their pinnacle in 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis, after Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev agreed to fulfill Fidel Castro's request to place nuclear missiles in Cuba, leading to a 13-day standoff as the pair threatened to obliterate each other with nuclear warheads. 2 months later, the UK's first submarine-based nuclear weapon system was born, Polaris, and less than 2 years later China stepped on the scene with its first nuclear test, sending a signal to the world that it too could be a superpower. Harold Wilson had just narrowly won office and he needed a strong policy if he wanted to gain a majority, therefore quashing any Soviet threat apparently seemed like a good start. Papers obtained by Express.co.uk show exactly why heavy consideration was therefore given to the possibility of basing Polaris submarines in the Far East. Taking by a secretary to the Chief of Staff Committee, they read, ministers decided in December 1967, to keep open the option to deploy UK Polaris east of Suez from 1972. They were informed that the additional capital cost of deployment would amount to some £15,255,552,147 today, including contingencies with extra running costs of £400,000, £6,814,724 today, a year. They were also informed that on the assumption that the UK Polaris force would be based on Australia, its operational capability would be markedly less than in the NATO areas. Thank you for watching. From a position in the Indian Ocean, it would be possible to reach any of the major targets in either China or Russia at 4 days' notice. For a third of the time, when tow submarines would be at sea together, targets in either China or Russia could be engaged at immediate notice. This assessment of cost and capability was derived from the study approved by the Chiefs of Staff in August 1967, which assumed that there would be a continuing conventional naval presence in the Indian Ocean throughout the 70s. Alongside the proposal, Express.co.uk also obtained annotated maps showing the exact capabilities of the proposal. They read, the Polaris missile has a theoretical maximum range of 2,500 miles. In practice, each missile has slightly different characteristics which are predictable in advance. Some may have a maximum range limited to 2,200 miles, but some will go to 2,500 and others are somewhere between. Thank you for watching. As it is possible to predict these in advance, target planning can include a proportion of targets out to the maximum range of 2,500 miles. Annex A, pictured, shows the coverage of the Polaris missile out to 2,200 miles from the Atlantic, a point in the Arabian Sea and a point in the Bay of Bengal. The papers also discuss other options, allowing the whole of the Soviet Union to be covered in parts of China. They continue, position B shows an extension of the maximum range circle out to 2,500 miles. From deployment point B in the Arabian Sea, the missile can threaten all but one, Leningrad, of the 12 major Russian cities. Slightly less than half the area in which Russian MRBMs are deployed. Nearly all the Russia ICBM and IRBM sites and some Chinese territory including all the approaches to the Himalayan phases but not the 12 major cities. But within the 2,500-mile circle, we can strike the remaining Russian MRBM area and Leningrad, plus a small extra area of China. Thank you for watching. from deployment point C, and SSBN would be out of range of worthwhile targets in Russia, but would cover most important cities in China. Papers show that at least 2 submarines were launched destined for the Middle East, with all 4 operational by December 1968. But despite extensive high-level discussion, the plans were finally abandoned in mid-1968, as Labour moved more decisively to forsake the world role. All 4 boats were instead operated by the Royal Navy, and based at Clyde Naval Base on Scotland's west coast, a few miles from Glasgow. At least 1 submarine was always on patrol to provide a continuous at-sea deterrent. Thank you for watching. The Cold War tensions would last for more than 40 years until a change in Soviet mindset under Mikhail Gorbachev led to the fall of the Berlin Wall. However, the 8th and last leader revealed in 2006 his real thoughts on what caused the fall of communism in Eastern Europe. He said, "The nuclear meltdown at Chernobyl, even more than my launch of perestroika, was perhaps the real cause of the collapse of the Soviet Union 5 years later." The Chernobyl disaster was a devastating nuclear accident that occurred at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant near the city of Pripyat, Ukraine on April 25, 1986. It is considered the worst nuclear disaster in history and is one of only 2 nuclear energy disasters rated at 7, the maximum severity, on the International Nuclear Event Scale, the other being the 2011 Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in Japan. Initially, after the Chernobyl disaster, Mr. Gorbachev and the Communist Party downplayed the incident both domestically and on the world stage, calling it a minor event that requires no special measures to protect the population. Moscow's handling of the disaster went on to expose the reality of human error within the Soviet system and introduced doubt and questions of competence directed at the Kremlin not seen since before World War II. Mr. Gorbachev was unable to recover, and as questions mounted so did the pressure, until eventually the regime collapsed, and the Berlin Wall coming down will forever be seen as the moment symbolizing the Soviet Union's demise. However, these comments suggest that Chernobyl was the real turning point in Soviet history, and the disaster arguably made the wall coming down an inevitability.
Don't forget to like our video and subscribe for our channel.